Yes, ma'am.
We are
Yes.
talking about what do we teach our children about hate. And you can say that many ways. You can say, what do we teach them about hate? And how do we teach them about hate? And how do we uh, show up in examples of hate for them to
Yes.
for other kids and other people? So, I mean, I know why people hate, but kids may not understand why people hate. And, why would I purposely teach my hate other people is
Yeah.
beyond me, because it's just something I don't do. But I know families do that out of beliefs, out of ignorance, out of prejudice.
Mm.
And, you know, I just really want to dig into what are we doing as parents to prevent the growth of hate
Yeah.
within our house, which will ooze out of our house and go into other places and into other people through our children. So, um, for me, with my family being like super diverse, and we have a lot of cultures blended,
Yes.
I can't say there's anybody in my family that's prejudiced or racist. Um, but people who have married into other ethnicities, their parents and their grandparents are racist, where they had to completely just cut that off and just deal with their immediate family.
Mm.
It's just like really toxic. Like, I do love my grandchildren, but I don't understand why you had to marry an N word
Oh.
type of stuff. And for my aunts, I will say there is a colorism
Mm.
hatred uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm.
self imposed,
Mm.
but don't I don't take my girls around those aunts because I don't want that put on them like their skin is better than anybody else's, because
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing. So what do you think about the hate teaching for kids today?
Yeah, I feel like I don't think people necessarily think that there's any real consequence to it. I
Mm.
don't think that they know themselves what the consequences to it is. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, because why would you put your child in a position of possibly getting their head made? I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying, think about that. Your child, you're teaching your child all these terrible things, teaching them that, you let them know who's the boss when you get to school or whatever they tell them. I don't know. I just imagine that conversation.
Right.
Right. Then the kids get to school and they just acting a fool. And you're like, man, one day we've all seen it. We've seen somebody be taunted and taunted and taunted, and then it just goes down.
Yeah.
And I don't think parents are thinking that responsibly about what they teaching their kids.
Yeah. And I don't think like the games are helping. The YouTube is helping. The
No, it's not.
this this hate speech, crimes that are clearly hate crimes that are not being said that they are hate crimes because maybe is more white imposed. So they were just having a bad day. Like, but if it was any other race,
Right.
first thing in the article is going to be a hate crime or a racist attack. Attacking versus discussing, like people don't know how to have a discussion and not attack other people. The peer pressure of hate, biases, anything like anti-American,
Mm-hmm.
sexism, ableism, um, perpetuating violence. Like if somebody says this to you, you punch them in the face, or you push them, or you trip them in the hallway. Like all of that is like leading up to your child just being a bully.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even if kids aren't shown the proper love or balance in a household, being that they need someone to love on them,
Mm.
they will purposely go to daycares, camps, and schools and become complete terrorists in the hallways to other kids because they need to feel like some type of hierarchy Like, you're going to see me, you're going to acknowledge me, even if it has to be in a negative sense. And
Mm-hmm.
parents love to disconnect from, oh, I don't think such and such meant it that way, or
Yes.
playing, they weren't really bullying, or they're just playing, or they're just friends,
Oh,
or
y'all
just,
being soft. Stop that.
yeah,
Y'all see, it's just soft. How you
yeah,
making that soft boy soft like that? How you gonna know how to fight the world? Like, you think that's what we have to do? Like, that's what you believe that we just have to teach our children to fight the world? We can't teach them how to be a part of not having to be a part of fighting the world? Somebody, what now? I feel like an
or
old lady trying to grab something.
not. I don't want to teach my kids how to fight. I would love to teach my kids how to fight, but I don't want to teach them that that's level one of what you do first.
Exactly. And I don't even like, I just remember this. I remember my youngest daughter, I think she was in like second grade. And I say this to be very sensitive because I'm not saying this in the sense to paint a picture of anyone in particular. I know the Asian community is really going through it right now. But it reminded me of the fact that, you know, white supremacy itself is something that hits everybody, and everybody sort of is a part of it. You talk about colorism, like
Mm-hmm.
older folks, like older West Indian folks,
Yeah.
ooh, that colorism thing deep. Okay, it don't even make any sense, but it does make sense if you think about the time they grew up in. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? But my daughter, she's at school. I remember she was crying, and I'm like, "What, Karina? Why are you crying?" She's just like, "Because this little girl, one of the little girls, didn't want to play with me." And I'm like, "Oh," so I'm gonna ask some questions like, "Well, what do they look like?"
Mm-hmm.
And she, the kids, they used to call everybody yellow and peach and and brown and orange and colors. So, she's telling me about her yellow friend or her white friend. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
the people that she thought was her friends. And I'm listening to her and I'm thinking to her, all I could say to her was, Karina, some people just don't want to be your friend, and that's just okay. Like,
Right.
without even going into like the colorisms thing, because that's gonna go way over her head, or the racism, it was going way over her head. But she understood then that there's just going to be people that are going to have friction with you, and you just have to be able to walk away with them. So don't react to that hatred. Just realize that those people ain't for you, and that's okay. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
And
But
I'm always trying to push that on my oldest to let her know, like, people don't have to be your friend. You
yes.
don't have to play with other people. You don't have to do what they do. You don't have to follow them at the playground. Um, you don't have to participate in how they want to do things. That's a decision. And when
Yeah.
it comes to like racism, especially when I'm watching like documentaries, I'm always purposely explaining it to her, like, there's still some people today who just don't like you because of your skin. There's
Mm-hmm.
people today who won't like you just because of your hair. Um, there's still some people who would tell you that you're better because your skin is lighter than my.
Mm,
I'm always showing them, like, like, what color is my skin, and are
yes.
youngest would say brown. What color is your skin? Brown. What color is on your skin? Brown. What color is your dad's skin? Brown. Like, we
Mm,
are different shades of brown, but we
right.
are still considered quote unquote black to the outside world. And I need them to understand that that doesn't mean anything.
Mm,
But I've never had to sit there and explain to my kids homophobia yet. I've never had
yeah.
to explain to them transphobia yet.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's a lot to do with also what you talk to your kids about and what you avoid talking to your kids about.
Yeah.
Because kids can pick up on you dislike something because you never bring it up and you don't talk about it, and it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. More than I think we even like now. I know. Like, looking back, I was like, damn, I was nosy as hell. I knew everything that was going on in my house. How could I know these kids up here? So I'm very
Yeah.
conscious. Is like, let me make sure that. And then sometimes I'll talk about, y'all overheard me and Daddy talk about something.
Mhm.
They be
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, oh, weird. I'm, okay, let's talk about it. Okay. So it could be anything, like, if we're talking about money, like those kids, they'd be like, to my son, he'll be like, mommy, we could sell, we could go and buy this thing, we could sell 50 of them. Listen, yes, one day you're going to be an entrepreneur. I'm so proud of you for having ideas, could you just get your schoolwork done? That's the least I ask. But I've noticed though with this generation, at least my experience with my kids, I used to ask them all the time, like, are y'all getting into fights? Like, what is school like? Are y'all in, like, is it scary? Because I'm thinking about our experience going to school. It was scary sometimes to go to school in the 90s. Like, kids was angry as fuck. Okay.
Mm.
Stabbings were up. Okay, all the time. I'm from South Florida and people like to stab. It's just a thing they like to do. So girl, it is. So I don't know what kind of hate they was getting raised up in their household, but I do know that, like, flashing forward, the
Mm.
it I think that it's the political stuff, I think, is the thing that really started to kind of poison, I think, what my kids, their generation, and what they were growing up in, because they actually had a lot of great friendships. I've
Mm-hmm.
not There was that one time that my daughter, two times I can recall. Okay, I take all that back. There was people they had to get called a couple times at
Mm-hmm.
school because they had to defend themselves, somebody, doing something bothering them, but that could just be generally bothering them. I've never had it be something that was like racial related, except for that one time when Karina was telling me about her friends, and I was like, okay, this is still real. I guess they still teaching them that in America, So
But it's just like, even, in the workplace, we have like diversity management. We have like all these people randomly they started hiring, and all of a sudden the perfect person for that has to be black. No,
mm,
no,
mm,
have someone of a different ethnicity. It doesn't necessarily have to be black. I actually would rather it be someone who is of a different ethnicity, so we can all learn something, you know? And so
yeah,
them picking out black people for this job, we have our first black CEO, we have our first, African American this. I hate that. I hate seeing that in articles. I hate seeing that in history books. I hate seeing that for like the first thing you describe me as, because if it was
mm-hmm,
you're not going to say the first white. You're not going to
right,
say first Indian. You're not going to say the first Asian. It
yeah,
doesn't matter what their ethnicity is. We can see them. What did
right,
they do that's so great? How did they contribute to the point of this article or the point of this invention or creation? And I'm not saying I don't want to talk about who people are, but let's stop making it the first this, because it all it's saying is, okay, we just let one of y'all motherfuckers in.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's saying that. I think it's saying the fact that we know that white supremacy is a real thing, and it just really validates that, right? The fact that we have to consider letting you in because we need one of you.
Yeah,
It's there's no reason for us to keep denying that we have we're living in a white supremacist society, because it does exactly what your point is. And then when you do get the job, let's say you are qualified, you're black, you're qualified, right?
mm-hmm.
You get the job, you might have questions like, did I get this job because I'm the token, or because I know I fuck shit up, but I mean, do I fuck shit up? Because you know what I'm saying, like, you know what I'm saying. Like, it's you have that in the back of your mind, so it's this constant thing. It's like really psychological, it's like deep, like, you know what I'm saying. It don't have to be this hard, but it's been this hard.
Let me tell
And you know mm-hmm.
you, this past
Go ahead.
Friday, I was,
Mm-hmm.
I was at home in training, and the person that's like, supposed to keep in touch with the employees and stuff, she was like, I just have a question. Has anybody checked out the diversity website? Everybody in the Zoom is like, no. But predominantly, there are more black people in my
Mm-hmm.
training than any other ethnicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody was like, yeah, I clicked on it, but I didn't sign up for anything. Well, can you guys just check it out? And it's kind of this push to
Yeah.
this section that we created just for you, and I need you to tell us what you think, and I need you to tell us how you like it, and to join different groups. First of all, if I was interested in joining a certain group to big up my humanism of who I am, then
Yeah.
I'll search for it. But all I wanted to do today was clock in, understand what I need to
Yes.
understand for training, and that's it. But I understand that big companies have to check off this checkoff list to make sure they're not excluding anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Real thing. The real thing is if a job is posted within a job internally and so many people want to go for that job, no matter what, all Black people are going to talk to other Black employees to see what's needed for the job. Did they apply to the job? Blah blah blah. All
Yeah.
people are going to talk to other Hispanic people to see da 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 da. I'm not saying that we don't want to intertwine and talk, but we understand when it comes to hiring, either externally or internally, there are way more factors than are you knowledgeable and qualified to do this job.
Mm.
That's why jobs say it is optional for you to tell us what your ethnicity is. And it is for you to tell us if you're disabled or whatever. But the real thing is, even if you don't click the thing, once you get the job, they're going to fill in that for you. So it's really not optional because they have to hire a certain percentage of Asians. They have to hire a certain percentage of whites. They have to hire a certain percentage of Blacks in order to get certain awards and funding at the end of every year.
Yeah, that's why whenever I fill out an application, and this was a part of my white supremacy purging in progress as well, I just do other human. And I dare them to ask me and be like, can you fix that? No, that's right. You
They'll
saw that
never ask
properly.
to fix it. But once they do what they do on their side, as far as like description and checking off boxes and making sure they have a certain percentage, they're going to do it for you. Like
I
even
mean,
I
my
purposely
hope is that lady, she looked like she's not paying much attention anyway. But if she does pay attention, I dare her to be like, excuse me, excuse you. What's that say? It says human. Thank you, ma'am.
oh my
Okay.
goodness.
And I urge everybody else to just do it and then just rebel. And then when they'll be like, oh, I don't remember I don't remember. I want to say she was Black. I want to say girl, wasn't paying much attention. I messed up on that billing statement. He wasn't paying attention. Thank you. And then y'all will see that everybody up in here is telling y'all that we're going to be humans. And thank you. We don't want to do it. We don't want to do the labels, the Black, the white, the Asian, all this foolishness. That's what they've been doing to help teach these kids how to hate, whether it's in their household or when you go to school, you're going to see somebody be like, God damn it, did he just call me in there? Mommy, Daddy, this what happened today.
And we'll get more in detail on that because I have a point where workplaces have a different mindset depending on the ethnicity that you are as far as like, can you do the job? But I'm going to get into some of these messages. Let's see.
Yours.
Who we got? Ashley.
I really wish we didn't teach our kids hatred. We need to be more considerate. Our kids don't need that hate to be put in their lives. I mean, there's too much hate in this world already, and I personally think that we all just need to get along and be understanding. The kids don't need all that stress in their lives.
Ain't
that the truth? That is the truth right there.
Rashad, Sadiq, let's see.
Eruth, fellow Scorpio, brilliant brain.
Yes.
She Gets It pod, dope content creator. Got to get to know you a little bit more. Both of y'all need to actually hone in. I've been doing my thing. But look, I seen you was going live, so I just jumped in. What do we teach our children about hate? Me personally, y'all can say I'm wrong about it, but my son's 8. I don't teach him about it. I'm just kind of quick with it, just to say that, to make it seem like we're above it and that it exists, but we don't need to overanalyze it and not let it consume us by thinking about it too much. That's my philosophy. And that when they get older, you just watch and see how the world is slowly showing them things that you were trying to hide, and then explain it bit by bit how you see fit. That's my opinion.
I say hide nothing. Show them the world. As soon as they understand, show them. I say it.
I was watching Annabellum. Have you watched that yet?
Yes.
And Anya was asking, because she was like, "Is that real?" I said, "Yes, girl. They treated us worse than this. This is fluff, honey."
Yes. Yes. Let me tell you, if my parents had not shown me the world as a child, the truth, and talked to me about the truth as a child,
Mm-hmm.
as painful as it was, I don't think I'd be able to survive the world. Mm-mm.
Because you gotta prep them. You can't just throw them out there.
Yeah. Yeah. That right there. That part. Messages?
Mm.
I'm kind of spent on the whole app right now, but I did want to leave a message off break because I seen my homie Eruth and she gets a pod. So yes, hopefully I can listen for a little bit, but I'm not going to interfere too much more. Peace and love to y'all. And if y'all are new in here and you don't know these two lovely ladies, make sure y'all follow them right now. Follow them. Follow them now and share it. Don't just listen here and look at their screen, man. Clap it up, share it. It's good stuff in here. Follow me
Thank
too as
you.
well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And forgive me for this being. I said I was gonna go away, but then I went on your Instagram page. I see you got the 11/11 going on. And if you didn't know, Eruth is Scorpio, and my birthday is 11/11. So we in here.
Yes.
We in here.
Yes. Goodbye.
That's what you call the definition of willful ignorance.
Mm.
People who do wrong and ain't trying to find out what right is.
Mm.
That's a
Mm.
fact.
Mm.
Oh, we got Kev. You might know him, Ruth. You might know him.
I might know him.
Yes, those are some great points y'all are bringing up. As far as like the bullying and like the good kid, right? There's you know, I think the bully goes through a lot of hardships at home, and a lot of times the good kid just gets a lot of love and maybe coddled a little too much or doesn't have any element of toughness, so they usually they usually end up getting bullied. So for me, it's hard just having a balance of course, not having my kids be violent or anything like that, but at the same time, not let them be susceptible to bullies, because you always have to stand up to a bully sooner or later. So
That's a fact.
That's true. Mm.
Well, whenever it comes to any isms, whether it's ageism, colorism, racism, classism, it's all about trying to separate each other from one another. At the end of the day, we all humans.
That's a fact.
True. True. Yes.
You said.
Yes.
And I guess this is a male perspective, but yeah, I would like, my worst nightmare is having one of my children hurt themselves or anything like that because they've been bullied at school. Like, I'd rather them take a wrench to school and handle it that way.
A wrench.
But
Not a
male
wrench.
perspective.
Not a whole wrench though. The wrench?
You got Greg.
Hey yo, I'm in here. I'm here. How are you guys doing? Happy Sunday. Hopefully you're doing all good and bad things depending on what type of person you feel like you want to be today.
Yeah.
What do we teach our children about hate? If you're going to be a hater, be a hater. That's probably what I would teach my kid. But I would hope that you don't teach your kid to hate. That's just some wild shit. I'm ready to hear. I'm ready to hear what y'all got to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I think about when people teach their kids about hate? I think about the kids from Gummo. You ever seen that movie?
No.
Oh,
What is
girl,
it?
you have to see it. It's it's a movie basically about a poor white class of just like kids in the community and what they did and how they played, and absence of like real parenting and how you just really saw the grit of it. And I'm just like, yeah, I knew this existed. Yes.
I feel like maybe I did see it. It sounds like something I've seen. Are they like in a steam, like it's like a Europe and they're in England or something like that?
No,
Or like
they're
cold kids or something?
No, they're here in America and they're just like in the street and just moving about.
Oh.
Kind of like they're grown, but they're kids. Like, I remember a scene where one of the little boys was like in a bathtub eating spaghetti, and the bathtub was so and dirty from the dirt. And I'm just like, what is going on? Yeah. You gotta see it. You gotta see. I have to send you a link to that. But yeah.
Oh my gosh. I gotta see that.
I'm black. I am not doing any type of fucking diversity training. I'm sorry. I can't do it. Now, if you want to do it, feel free. Be my guest. That's for y'all. That ain't for us. When I say y'all, you know who the hell I'm talking about. But it definitely ain't for us. We already are like marginalized as is, not only in life but in the workplace especially. So I can't do it. They've even asked me to join the board for it, and I was like, wait, is there like a bump in salary for this?
Right.
It's almost like teaching people why racism is wrong. I can't do it. I don't get paid for it. It's above my pay grade, and clearly y'all ain't paying enough. So therefore, nah, fuck that shit.
Yeah. I have to push. My thing is this: if I can't say white supremacy out loud in these meetings, I don't go. And I remember in being one meeting, and I was just like, yeah, I know I had typed it in the like a live stream chat thing we had, and I was like, what's this white supremacy? Let's not stop calling it racism. And I think they was like, okay, we're gonna not take any more messages for the rest of the day, guys. Thank you so much for for letting us know your voice, hearing your voices. I was like, y'all don't want to tell the truth. Y'all need to tell the truth. We know what the company looked like in the org chart. That's I want to call it hate, but it's something like close to it. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Growth. Okay.
Eruth is such a Scorpio. You talking about how you be trying to skew the numbers?
Listen.
The funny thing about that he just called me a nigga thing, it's like other races are getting more comfortable using that word now. They come back. It wasn't just, you know what I'm saying? You got to know the history of the word, first of all. That's first and foremost. And then you got to know, like, the meanings and all that. Now, it's come to a point, like, I have a lot of Caucasian friends, you know what I'm saying? Some of my Caucasian friends say the word nigga, but I got it rubs me a certain way, but I gotta be like, damn, like this is today in society, like everybody's really using that word, don't know not a damn thing about it, but they saying it. So do Mexicans or Hispanics or Asians. The word nigga is just like for everybody nowadays.
It's an illusion that it's for everybody, but I understand why they feel like they can use it because it's so like it's diluted in everything, in cartoons and music and socialization and just like, let's say, podcasts, blogs, whatever, and it's like that go-to word to get a rise out of people. That's why people still do it, and everybody turns on their cameras, and then like this lady at the coffee shop is now all over social media, and everybody knows her name, and she doesn't care, but she knew what word to use to get a rise. And that's
I think also. Go ahead. That's why.
That's why I keep saying, like, once we brown skinned people that they use that word on stop getting like really riled up over them using that word first for a reaction, then they'll be like, okay, well, what else can I say to make them, do something or say something to me and act ignorant, like people say they act ignorant. And I think we'll be.
Well, I think it's also interesting. It's so telling. It's so telling that the need for people to want to feel like for white people who say, well, why can't we say it? You say it. It's like, that's not fair. We shouldn't be. You can't leave us out of anything. We should be able to do what we want to do. And it's like, you had it for like, I don't know, 200, 300, whatever, 100 and whatever amount of years. You use it all the time and always had some violence with it. Why can't we just tell no? Why do we even need to be in a conversation? Like, it's wild to me, but it's so interesting that you see the counter argument will come in and say, well, it's a free country. Why can I say it? It's just, why do you want to say it is the question.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that? What is the need for you to? And I think even for Black people, I think it's just automatic for us. It's like I catch myself every so often, like, ah, goddamn, I said it again. It's just because it happens. It's automatic. We've been saying it all through high school, all through middle school. That's what we said all the time. That was just it. So it's an interesting word in terms of how we look at it in the past and how we look at it in the future. But I don't know. I think a part of me is like, at some point I want us to be rid of anything that was used to describe us. Even if it's us taking it back, it's like, we don't have to take it back. It's like, there's nothing to take back. It's there, but I know that's going to take time. That's just my utopia.
Yeah. That's a whole show within it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get up on out of here. I finally heard y'all play my message, and just to reiterate why I feel like that is just because y'all might think it's a good idea, but I think it dims their light. I feel like children have a light that you're supposed to just like keep putting batteries in, and when you teach them about like the dark side, it's hard to like get that light back in, and it's going to eventually get dimmer anyway. So you just got to be watching it, because if you're working on making it super bright, you'll notice when it starts getting dim.
Yeah, it's kind of this is what I think about that too, and it's a decision as a parent to make of like what expose your kids to. I grew up with my mom babysitting a lot of different kids, and some families she was really close to, where we would go to like Disney World together and stuff. And one of her kids that she used to watch, her mom like put her into like just kid life. There was no news. There was no this is going on. There was no outside of Disney. There was no outside of playgrounds and shoes that taught you how to tie your own shoes and interactive books. Even when we got in the car, it was straight kid songs, Disney songs. But her child was really smart and intelligent. Like, she didn't baby her. She talked to her like a grown adult, but she's very intelligent. But all she knew was kid world, right? You can do that.
Yeah,
but you have to gauge your child's personality. Because if your child is enticed by newness and something they've never seen before, you don't want your child to be around someone who is okay with grown-up influence as a child, and they put them onto something new and then they gravitate towards that and they're like stuck. And that is why I give my kids balance. Like, they do know what is kid-like. They do know what is not for kids. And they do know that outside of our house can be a happy place, but it's also a place where you have to be mindful. But at the same time, I've seen kids that have been like super shielded and they have like holes within them because of that. And then I've seen kids that are well balanced. And I feel like the kids that are well balanced, that have the yin and the yang, the good and the bad, and they were, guided in that growth, I feel like they are better off in life because they don't get stuck on, what you mean there's no tooth fairy? Or what do you mean there's no Easter bunny? Or what do you mean people are really out here to get or will get me or will do something to me? I thought everybody was nice. And I don't want my kids to think that.
Yeah.
That they shouldn't have that happiness. They shouldn't have that light. Like Rashad said, kids do have a light, but I think you have to constantly reinforce that, because the older you get, the more aware you get as an adult. It's adults that dim the light.
Yes.
Within. And it's your responsibility as individuals, is my child's responsibility as an individual to have a place within them that they don't allow people to get to. And you have to teach your child that as they grow. So for me, especially as a creative, there's a light within me that will always be childlike. And everybody around me sees it. I'm goofy. I seem like I'm happy all the time, and that's that light. Because the reality is I'm not happy all the time. But my light is very bright that people get that vibe from me.
Yeah.
And so you just teach your kids how to carry that throughout real life.
Yeah. And I think so too, just to even add to your point about, the balance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our children are going to be adults at some point. That's just right. That's just, there's no way around it. We hope. We blessings, we hope that they have longevity in life. Right. And I think that what happens is that it just depends. Like my dad was Rastafarian, and we grew up, he didn't play no games with no Easter bunny, the tooth fairy. He tried to do the tooth fairy, but then he'd end up telling us anyway. And he was like, this, yes, it's basically like, eventually he started telling us like, this is me. And we didn't do a lot of what he would call pagan religion, pagan holidays. That's what Jamaicans are calling it, right? So for us, we just learned early on that there's never, if we have information and it is what it is, we just told our kids it is what it is. We celebrated Christmas, but just for the holiday sake of just giving, but not necessarily anything deeper than that, because it's just what it is. And I think that there does have to be balance, but I feel like all of our kids have their own personalities. They all have their own characteristics, their own behaviors. And that when we tell them the truth about the world to expect, I'm not talking about you just go let them watch, New Jack City at like 5 or something like that. Be like, don't be like what's the Chris Rock, Pookie or whatever his name was. Don't be like him, that's traumatizing. But when they're like 11, 12, they're 13, 14, maybe 14, 15, you can do, that's when you start graduating them to different, and different, exposing them to information, so I think it's just a gradual thing. But I think children lights dim when something traumatic happens to them. And I think that the world for what it is sometimes, and at the same time, sometimes you don't have any control. Sometimes the world happens and you have to then have that conversation. But I feel like, I guess what to Rashad's point is, if you want to hold on to that little thing, as long as you can, I think that's fine. For me, I think the benefits of my parents telling me the truth, it really set me up. So
that's good.
Not really sure about what we teach our children about hate, but I do know that, be it the screaming, name calling, the abuses, whoopings, or whatever, that will teach the brain. Your brain is going to translate any type of violence into hate, period. So, I mean, think about what you're doing to your child, and that's what you're teaching your child.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
The spankings, we don't realize. I think people don't. I didn't know this until like when I got to the spiritual experience, and that was kind of like the conversations and the lessons and the guidance that we were given was like, discipline does not have to come with the rod. That's not the way to actually teach children, to raise children. And just coming from a West Indian family, if you black, you know a spanking. I mean, most of us know a spanking. If you either saw it or you was a part of it. And so, for a while, that was sort of what we was kind of, you flick, you give a little pinch, you give a little flick, you stop them from putting their hands next to something that's dangerous, that's hot. And, I remember me and my friend debating about this, and he was just like, nah, you got to flick that finger. You got to flick anything. You got to make sure they know it's hot. You got to make sure they feel it. They know, not even think about it. And I was like, that's true. But then is the responsibility then on me as a parent to do better and making sure that they're not having the access to the danger? You know what I mean? So is there something that I can do to not put them in that position where I have to pop them? So it just made me think about them. And of course, my dad was just like, don't be spanking the kids. And I'm like, but that you did. Can someone have been there, please?
And then they say, they'll be beating my grandkids.
Okay.
What?
Yeah. Them spankings took a little bit of my life. a little tiny bit.
I'm the opposite. So my mom never believed in whoopings and any type of discipline. My mom was just like a free spirit, okay? And our brothers were at war in the house. All she did is prepare the first aid kit. That was how I was raised, right? And I knew that that's not the type of mom I wanted to be. Because I felt like a lot of this stuff could have been dealt with and settled before it got to that point. And so I don't even let my daughters fight. I don't let them have long arguments.
Good.
I'm petty. I do tell them they don't have to play with each other. The house is big enough for them to be in separate rooms. And I'm solution based. So what I'll do, I'll say, if any of you come to me complaining or crying, I'm going to get both of y'all. So then that forces them to figure out their own solutions.
Yeah.
And that's what it needs to do. It shouldn't be one kid against the other kid. It should be, we're sisters, we're family.
Yeah.
After you, you look after me. Let's make sure something bad doesn't happen to either one of us.
Yeah. Because I think, you know what, too? I don't think we realize as well that, like, hate doesn't necessarily have to be, I think, taught. I think it can also come from one thing to turn into hate, like jealousy, right? Like, how many siblings we know that are like jealous, like hate each other, like envious, hate each other because of for whatever reason. And that's something that we really do try to check. Like, everybody gets something, but then also sometimes if somebody doesn't get something, it's like, it's okay. Like, you're not going to always get something. And we're going to celebrate together why one of the kids is getting something and maybe not why the other isn't getting something at the time. Like, I don't believe in like everybody has to get something with everybody just to make everybody happy.
My friends try to do that when it's their birthdays. So let's say if it's Arya's birthday, they'll get Anya something. If it's Arya's birthday is coming up again, she's already talking about her birthday. She's been talking about her birthday all year and last year. And Anya is like, well, doesn't she have to share her toys? And then today she wrote on a piece of paper, how many ways does Ari hate me or do I hate Ari? And I'm just like, first of all, I don't know where you're going with this paper, but I have to take it and crumple it up because this shouldn't even be a discussion. You shouldn't even be sitting thinking about this or festering about how you hate your sister. She was like, well, I just don't want to be a big sister anymore. I said, I know being a sister comes with a lot of responsibility, but I'm a sister too, and I can't do nothing about that. But at the same time, she doesn't like the fact that Arya is still learning personal space. And the fact that she has to get up and be the bigger person all the time and move or do something different for the sake of not having an argument or not having a crying fit or not fighting. And I'm just like, girl, this is life. This is thug life. You're going to have to get used to it. But what we're not going to do, we're not going to make a list about how we hate each other. And I know a lot of her jealousy right now is coming from Arya's dad being more involved with Arya and her dad involved with her. And Arya having more access to things with her dad and she doesn't. But I also have to make it a point to have a discussion with my sister. Her mannerisms change. What you were saying about parents probably not doing something to incite hate purposely.
Yeah.
If I saw that her body language was changing every time Arya got happy about her dad or going to her dad, and I didn't say anything, and we didn't have a conversation, that can lead to hate. That can lead to her doing something to Arya when I'm not in the room. That can lead to being spiteful and doing all of this stuff. And you have to have those conversations. You can't act like, oh, your child is a saint and them being bullied every day is not bothering them. You know they're not supposed to hit back. No, that's going to bubble into something.
Yeah. And there's other ways people can go about that too. Like with our kids, like for Christmas, we usually get everybody the same thing. Everybody's gonna get gift cards. Maybe everybody gets a Kindle. Maybe y'all get a game system that y'all all can play together. Y'all gonna have to figure out how to, ways that you can play with each other. Share the apps. Go play on the apps with each other. Like there's that. But I really, and it's so funny. I remember when I was a kid, and I remember if my older sister got something, I'd be like, well, what happened to me? Because I was just the youngest and I was just spoiled anyway. I was like, everybody, if somebody's supposed to share something with me, where's the candy? Can I get some candy, please? They're like, girl, I said, you didn't pay for this. This is my money. I'm like, oh, so I used to kind of be the one waiting around. You want your food? As soon as I get the food, you want your food? Like I was that much of a pest. I remember being when I was younger, but I do remember sometimes my mom and dad would get somebody something, and that's just what it was. Sometimes they got things for all of us, and that's just what it was. Like we had to learn that, we're different people. And I think that having that separation, checking it too when something ain't right it's like critical. And I think a lot of people don't want to say anything because they don't want to be like, well, I don't want to make it seem like it's more than it is. No, it's not more than it is. It's exactly what you're seeing it for what it is. Just address it.
Exactly.
Just address it.
I don't want to birth the strangers in my house.
Okay.
Ain't no locked doors. Like,
okay.
What's up? What you got going on in this room? Ain't nobody making bombs in the garage. Don't nobody have AK-47s in their closet. Like, we're not doing any of this. Under the bed is clean. Your closet needs to be clean. I need to be able to see all the corners in the room. Like, understand how parents go months and months and months of feeding, paying bills, making sure this kid goes to school, coming home, having dinner, cooking dinner, and you don't know what your child is doing in your house.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And then hearing people say, well, I don't want to really get up in their business like that. Well, your child could actually be in their room consuming hate. Just isn't that how some of these shooters, they ended up just consuming hateful shit just for hours and hours and hours and hours, left to their own devices. Nobody's talking to them about the feelings that they have. Maybe they mad because, I don't know, 5 years ago, dad said he was coming, but he ain't come. And that was like the day he expected, the child expected, and nobody knows. Nobody talked to this child. And that is it's scary to hear parents say that. Well, I just let him be in his room, or let her be in her room, and don't you pay the bill in there? Go in there. They don't have any rights. I mean, they have rights, but they don't have rights.
Don't say that too loud. The U.S. government is listening. I'm gonna play some more of these messages.
Okay.
Good evening, Queens. I'll sit this conversation out and just listen. Just wanted to say hello. You guys having a great evening.
Hello. Thank you.
You could pop into the conversation too if you're I'd love to hear it. It's not just about us. Like, also people who don't have kids, I feel like notice a lot with kids. And those people who don't have kids and they notice a lot with other people's kids, I think their thoughts should be heard because it can be thoughts, but sometimes they just don't feel like they have a right or a say in it because that's not their child or they don't have kids.
Yeah,
but I mean, all the time in the stores.
Exactly. And what about the village? Like, why can't we just start having the village just by somebody saying that is not right? Wait a minute, ma'am. Your child's been screaming for like 50 minutes and you're over here. I remember I saw this one. I remember how many years ago this was. I'm always finding some kids just out in the street somewhere. Always. I'm always taking a kid back to somebody. Where's your mommy at? Show me, like, all the time. I remember I was in by the mall. This is not mall. This is Gwinnett Place Mall. That it ain't a mall. I don't know how it's still standing. But anyway. But I remember I was going into Macy's and this little girl was like just standing by a pole by herself. And I'm thinking to myself, like, where is your mom? And she's like, she's over there. She just told me to stand right here. And I'm like, but okay, where is she? She's like, she's over there. Her mom is all in the parking lot having a whole conversation way in the parking lot. And then when she comes back up, I'm like, oh, is this your daughter? I was like, yeah, she's been here for a while. She's like, yeah, I know, okay, girl, And she just keeps walking in the store, and the little girl's like, mommy, and she don't even pay her no mind, like not even any attention. And I'm like, this is how these kids get snatched or taken advantage of or experience something that they have no business experiencing, whatever that is. Like, just, I don't know. If you don't want these kids, there was a time when they was letting people drop off their kids at the, remember that when this, people were dropping off their kids at the fire station? I mean, big ass kids, like
I don't remember
17
no
year old.
big kids, but I did watch a documentary where in China there's a place where if you had a child and you were not married,
Yeah.
the woman, you can basically put them in a postal box that went
Oh.
into with a note or without a note will take care of the baby. Because it
Mm.
is looked down on in that culture to have a child and you're not married.
Damn.
So that's how they would get rid of their babies, whether they were prostituting or
Damn.
maybe they were raped or whatever, and they were pregnant and they would give birth and put the baby in like a postal box, and it'll basically have like an alarm on it or a ring for the orphanage, and then they'll just have like a new baby randomly, clean the baby, clothe
Oh my gosh.
the baby, and it was wild. But the story happened because this girl that befriended another girl when she grew up that was her best friend, she found out that they were twin sisters.
Mm.
Girl, that documentary is wild. I can't even remember
Oh my gosh.
but that is a thing. But yeah, when it comes to kids today, I remember my my old house, my neighbor had 7 kids from ages 2 to 14. And I guess she would work and the oldest one would keep the rest. And the
Mm.
girl will always be outside in the street by himself. And I'm just like, what's going on? Like, why are you outside? Why is
Yeah.
the outside in the street?
Yeah.
So, just because you can have children or you could give birth doesn't necessarily mean that you're a parent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
how do you want to take it?
yeah. And neglect is, another way for a child to start turning and, looking towards being hateful.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
Yes, that is a
with
thing.
without even being taught. Well, they're being taught inadvertently, but I mean, I don't think as parents would think about I mean, even for me, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm raising teenagers now and I'm still like figuring it out and trying to still not, my biggest thing is always trying to make sure that I'm not in their way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm preparing you, I'm setting you up, but I'm not in your way, but I'm also here for you if you need me to be in your way. And if I need to step up in your way, I'm gonna step in your way and you're not gonna tell me shit. Okay. Just go through it. Because my oldest daughter, she'd be like, mommy, I know I did I'm still your mom. That's what happens, and that's what it is.
I'm already dealing with my 7-year-old wanting to have the last say, and I hate it.
Ooh.
But one thing that I know I'm not going to do that Caribbean parents, especially moms, do, and I
Yeah.
how they show love, but it's not love to me. It's like slight bullying. They pick on you. They pick on your body. They
Mm.
point out
Yes.
things that you may be insecure about in yourself.
Yeah.
That's going to encourage you to make it better.
Yeah.
And it's something that I will never do to any of my daughters.
Yeah.
But you know what? I feel like my mom is so used to that upbringing and that culture of quote unquote loving, and
Mm.
that she doesn't even understand that it's a negative aspect.
Yeah.
Does it? And girl, don't let me FaceTime her because she's pointing out everything.
That's my dad.
I'm just like, girl, I didn't call you for this. I called you to let you know X, Y, and Z. Bye. I'll call you tomorrow. It'd be too much, but I'm not pointing out, the things that my children may be insecure about.
Yeah.
I'll, bring up, okay, here are some resources if you're having these troubles. And I don't even want them to be like, oh, you have to tell me when your cycle comes. No, when you're
Yeah.
around age, I'm just going to have the things
Yep.
that a young lady needs in the
Yep.
house. You know where to get them. Like,
Yep.
we don't have to have this, let me put you on blast conversation.
No.
But yeah, I know that's not the type of parent I'm being, because a lot of girls have this hate relationship with their mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they want to, it's just because they don't understand how they communicate in their way of loving. That's
Yeah.
your child's way of loving. So if I love on, any of my daughters, and that they don't communicate or take it in as, oh, she loves me, that's why she does this, and y'all don't have a conversation, then she's really gonna grow up thinking that I don't like her.
Yeah. 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 It's something that is I think for our parents, I think for them, they thought that that was their standards. Like the standards was this, and this is how I know that I'm achieving something as a parent, because my family is meeting that standard that the community has set for us to meet. And it's like, yeah, but some of them standards could be challenged. Like, we can push back and say this is not making any sense. You could be the rebel. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I think that in West Indian family is like, there's not the rebel. It is strong. Like it's very like a European type of, like, you have prim and proper, you have to behave a certain way, which is still good because manners, if our parents taught us manners, like, if I don't hear a child say thank you, or yes ma'am, or mom, yes mommy, or daddy, it to me it's like, this is just what I grew up hearing. My dad was like, when you speak to a person, you need to address them by yes Mrs. this, or yes Mrs. that, or yes daddy, or yes mommy. And it makes it's just like, I know friends will be like, oh, it's not that, it's the when I hear kids to be like, what, huh,
Yeah.
huh,
Yeah.
what? And it's like, I don't, okay, I'm not gonna judge because I don't know, but it just said, you can tell everything else is like, oh, this child probably does not say please, thank you, you're welcome, a
Yeah.
whole host of things, and those things do matter. It's just a pleasantry, it's just a courtesy, and it doesn't have to mean that they have to come out be somebody else other than who you taught them to be when they're around other people or anything like that. It just means consistently, no matter what, that child is going to be polite, and that should matter. If we talk about real standards, it should matter. But I think that when parents step away and like we were talking about earlier, leave their kids to their own devices, and then turn around and be like, I don't know how he ended up robbing all them stores. Okay,
Girl, listen, I was a nosy sister. I was all in my brother's rooms. I knew what they were doing. I knew what they weren't doing. My mom was slipping on her pimping, and I was like, her filling, right? And with that, we have to be mindful of, what do we shame people about around our kids?
mm-hmm.
Shame other people about around our kids is what they pick up on as, I'm going to start
Yes,
a kid because of this, or that kid has two moms, or that kid has two dads, so I'm not going to play with them because they're weird, or they're wrong, or they're living wrong, or my grandma said that that's wrong, and that's the devil, and all of this stuff. And it's that, like, you can't say, oh, I work with Black people, or I work with Hispanic people, I have no problem with them. That has nothing to do with you having a problem with them or not. That's
right,
nothing. You just happen to work with them. But
exactly.
you talk to your children about treating everyone equal. Do you talk
Mm-hmm.
to children about not saying certain words and why they may come off hateful, or mean, or they stem from a certain thing, or why this is not something you should say even though other people say it? Do you talk about it, or you don't talk about it because it doesn't affect you directly?
Right. Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's also teaching hate, is not talking about it, not having the
Yeah.
conversation. What happened in the store the other day, or what did you see in the parking lot, and why didn't you help mom, why didn't you help dad?
Mm-hmm.
Point is it none of our business and we shouldn't help? Like, all of that is a discussion that should be had,
Yeah.
and I feel like not talking about it is saying it's okay.
Yeah. I think or at least giving it's creating this false kind of narrative for the children to feel like, you know what, I'm gonna be like everybody else and just focus on my business, myself. Whatever's going on in the world don't matter to me. And that essentially, yeah, if it doesn't create hate, it creates the support of it.
Yeah.
You're not getting in, you're not wanting to make anybody uncomfortable. You're trying to, like, you know, just even that stance of, well, if I work with people and they look different from me, you know, we get along fine at work. But it's like behind closed doors, though, they know what's up.
Right.
We know the person that's coming from South America or whatever, Mexico, wherever, the immigrant that we talk about all the time, the Black person that's supposedly maybe a little suspicious. Like, we all know what happens when we get behind closed doors. We talk about how we felt, because people don't realize too, like, you can smile all day in somebody's face, but you can feel somebody's energy just as easily. And
Yeah.
I think people think that people in America, we don't pay attention. We don't talk about energies. I mean, we're all doing it in this, you know, this stereo spaces, but largely you don't hear people talk about character or energy. And those things, they're pretty
They
critical.
want to talk about it because to them it's not evidence.
Yeah.
You know, and even when you talk about energy and spirit on social media, they will block you. They will take your stuff. They will put you on timeout. They will completely make sure nobody can see your posts. I have a friend that has a company, and she's been going back and forth with Facebook and IG on her just posting about her business. And it has been a war on,
oh my God,
do we allow the truth and let people talk? Or is there some illusion of freedom of speech? But all the hateful stuff can fly. All the, oh, let me post this video of how somebody got killed. It can fly. You know what I'm saying? And then it makes you think, like, what are we pushing for people to see? Are we pushing fear more so than hope? Are we pushing ignorance more so than wisdom? And there's all of this stuff that's easily accessed for your kids.
Yeah.
So if you don't talk about it, then you're encouraging it. And I just want people to be mindful, like, how do you name call people in public? What do you say when you're driving and your kids is in the back?
That part right there.
Like, even down to physical, are you fat shaming people?
Yep.
Do you call people retarded that are not disabled, or even if they are disabled, do you call them that? Do you explain to your kids what that is?
Yeah.
Do you even know your kids' today's words for people?
Yep.
Because that's something you got to constantly, as a parent, be teaching yourself. Like, what does that word mean? And what is the appreciation for this? And even through texting, if there wasn't a hatred being taught, you wouldn't have so many digital things of vanishing texts and pictures and something like where things change and go away in 24 hours, because people have a intention that they want to be hidden, that they want to give people the illusion that I'm not doing anything wrong because you didn't see anything. Show me the proof. There's no proof there, so I'm safe.
Yep. I think that even in spaces where you hear like a lot of these like parenting, I don't say magazines, but like, you know, there's the I can't even think of a show right now, or the magazine or what have you, and it's very like, it's so like pacifying, but at the same time, I also like that it's open. You know, like the different type of parenting styles is not this. Not everybody's raising their kids the exact same, but then also you do have where a lot of people are raising their kids the exact same. We talked about this before about the cell phone. My 2-year-old need to have a cell phone. My 5-year-old need to have a cell phone. My 7-year-old need to have the cell phone, and the best phone. For what?
Nope.
Why do they need to have the best phone? Were they boss baby? Huh? Is that what you think this is? It's too much. It's too much.
Hey there, people. Hope you're enjoying the show. Don't forget to check out Cozy Womb Shop. Okay, the link is in the bio. You can also reach the shop at www.whoisshan.com. On Cozy Womb Shop, my thing that I'm going for right now in the t-shirts is good colors, good fun colors for the kids, for mom, for dad, unisex, and some new masks and some new colors. And I'm focusing on spreading love and getting love, okay? So on there, find what you're into. I have stickers, I have hoodies, and I have mugs, okay? But we got to get into this new season of Cozy One Podcast while you enjoy your merch. Let's go.
Here we go.
Back to the show.
Back to the show.
Much. It is. Too much access. I'm going to play these messages.
Yes.
You can teach your child how to defend themselves, to turn your kid into a ninja without ever having to show them that hate. And I mean, justice comes with punishment, and you can forgive them and teach them. So if you're using that force, that brain is going to translate that force definitely as hate. So just be careful with that.
Same.
Yeah,
it's like
that's
this.
True.
When you see families of other ethnicities go hunting or go camping, and everybody has some type of weapon, it's okay. But then once you see a different ethnicity that is rare to see, teaching their child how to shoot a gun, or teaching their child how to use an arrow, or teaching their child how to use a pocket knife. What do you think about this? It turns into this think piece. There's nothing to think about it. I'm happy that that child is being taught the proper way through classes and someone who is certified to teach this, how to handle it. But it's not saying I want my child to walk around with this gun freely and do whatever they want with it. I want my child to be educated on this gun. For me, being a mom and being a gun owner, I will be allowing my 7-year-old to get gun training classes next year because I have a weapon. Do I have it just sitting in my house? No, it's locked up. But I have a weapon, and there may become a time or emergency where I can't get to it, and I need her to either bring it to me or know how to handle it. If she's by herself and she's in danger, I would rather her be educated on how to properly use it.
Yeah.
So it's the education part. People always say, people with guns that have kids, they're just, setting themselves up for failure. No, people who are dumb that have guns and have kids and don't protect it and then do safety measures when they buy their gun end up in a stupid situation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, because I grew up with my dad having a gun. I watched my dad clean his gun. My dad took care of his gun like it was like the tool that it was. Yeah. It was not any playing around with it. So even for us, when we used to go to the gun range, my dad, I don't remember ever getting a chance. I never got a chance to shoot a gun myself. I don't know why they didn't. I guess I don't know if I was too young or not or what have you. But that's how we grew up. We grew up in a gun household, and to your point, it is how, and my dad was in the military, so of course, his appreciation of guns was completely different. Being an immigrant, coming here, joining the military, and then talking through to us exactly like the power of that weapon. And I'm not to say that there's not had been any kind of situations. There has been, but nothing to the point where like we all knew better. Like we knew exactly what danger, how to respect that tool. So I do think it depends on the parents. I think the parents who know who have respect for that tool definitely can teach a child, whatever age they feel like their child knows. I knew exactly what was going on when I was around a gun.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we got Jabari again.
Okay. Did this dude just say a wrench? You got to be kidding.
Kevin,
Eruth gonna get you when you get done with this podcast. I know it.
You know it, and he knows it. He's just like, you know what? Let me tell you. There's been plenty of times I'm like, Kevin, I I understand what your point is. Like, he's like, listen, these kids ain't gonna know if they don't know. You got to let them be. And I'm like, okay, but we're the parents. They're gonna call us. They're not gonna call our kids and be like, we know your dad probably set you up, but you got this. No, they're gonna be like, y'all got to come to the school. You have to answer for this. Like, you can't just do that, sir. There are standards, Morris.
In reference to the why do you want to say it, I had that conversation with my dad the other day and relating it to like we're Native and people love the word savages. Like, but it's like those kind of words that hurt our grandmas and stuff. Like, why are we trying to be in that place? Why are we glorifying that place when those people were using those as derogatory terms and then trying to use it against so many people? Why are we trying to exude that stereotype almost? An image? I don't know. It confuses me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still a whole unlearning that has to come with Native people and words and verbiage and allowance that comes with that people refuse to have because they don't want to see they're wrong.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing to talk about too, because every time I think about the word savage, I remember when Nick Cannon had the whole thing that he got into with the saying that the Jews are savages or something. He said something along those lines, and I had to really break it down. I was thinking to myself, well, if you look at what's going on in Ethiopia and how they had to have their own Black Lives Matter protest last year when all the protests happened in the United States because they were experiencing police brutality. The Ethiopians that were trying to live in the land of their ancestors too, according to them, is all of them. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, it is savage. It is a savage. It is savagery. The way that the word was used to paint anyone that's indigenous, I think it actually is more telling. The word is more telling about the people who were oppressing, that they're savages, than it is the people that were being oppressed. And I feel like that word has to be applied to the right person, the right people who were being savages. We know what the history of the genocide for indigenous people, the genocide of African descended people. And to me, I feel like that word applies more effectively towards that, what that behavior was, the horror of what they did to all of our ancestors. That's savage. And I think that's the way to not turn the word around, but to make it mean what it's supposed to. Because, they be doing them trickery word stuff.
After these people gave you soap and water and told you to wash your ass, you murdered them. The audacity.
And then call them savages. But then Christopher Columbus is just completely a monster. Oh, Lord.
So much.
I like the point that you raised about how people perceive other ethnicities, or let's say the majority perceives other ethnicities when they are bearing arms, because when you think about it, there have been Black children that have been murdered by police and quote unquote members of the neighborhood watch because they were carrying a gun, toy guns, right? And people then try to label those children as thugs. But if it is, for lack of a better name, Uncle Bubba and his family on a camping trip, it's totally okay for the 6-year-old or the 5-year-old to be holding a firearm or holding, a dead animal. So there is a huge, huge double standard.
I have a question for you, Eruth. Do you think people suffer still from the allowance ignorance? And when I say that, meaning they're still mentally not used to a different skin color being allowed to be in this place. I'm to a certain skin color of a person to be allowed to have this opportunity. I'm not used to them being allowed to be next door to me, to have that car, to be able to come to this gun range. Like when I went to buy my gun, I was one of the only quote unquote black people in that store purchasing a gun, purchasing my gun safe, going in the gun range and trying it out. But at the same time, that didn't make me feel any type of way or like I didn't belong there.
Right.
Because I'm going to get what I'm going to get and I'm going to pay for what I'm going to pay for. And I think people really have an issue with, oh, they are allowed. I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Struggle with the fact they struggle with the fact that they have to be okay because this is legal for them to be here to have these things. And so I think that is a struggle. And especially for Georgia right now, we going back to some Jim Crow stuff regarding this voting.
Yep. Yes.
Like, why is it such a big deal for people to be fed while standing in line for hours to vote?
Girl, they just keep reminding us that we are living in a system where there is a defined white dominance by way of white supremacy, this feeling that white is supreme. And this is what we're stuck in. And they keep on telling us that don't use the race card and don't use. What is this bill other than the race card being used against Black people because we voted in such droves this time around twice, 3 times, whatever many times it was. The Stacey Abrams, we came out for that too. Like, it's all these years later, and it we don't realize that the hate that we keep experiencing is because people are choosing to be bystanders, just what you said earlier, or people are choosing to be a part of pushing the hate for whatever their unresolved reasons are. But we need to be clear about what's happening right now. It's just a repeated pattern that we've been seeing, generation after generation.
They took the picture in front of the most gruesome type of plantation painting that there was. Like levels of reminding other ethnicities to stay in their place. But the problem is they did try to suppress voting in Georgia, because for my friend that lives in Atlanta, it took her 10 minutes to vote. There was no line. For me, where I live 15 minutes out of Atlanta, it took me 3 hours. And I got to watch young people walk out of line after standing in line.
Oh my God.
And by like the 10s, the 15s, all of those votes that we needed, because the line was not moving.
Well, that's why they passed the bill, right? Because they knew that the young people don't have any patience, so they're going to just walk out the line.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to wait that long.
So while we're living in the essence of what is 2021, they're already full throttle in 2024.
Yeah. It's going to be, the fight is going to continue because of what we just came out of. And I think people have to realize when it comes down to recognizing, like the point where you were talking about the ignorance allowance, right? Is that it's something that people have to realize, that when they come and approach a situation like with that, they have to ask themselves why. Like, really, what am I feeling right now based off of what I'm seeing? This Black woman in this store buying a gun, all of those things they have to process. People have to be realistic about self-reflecting in the moment, to check themselves, like in the moment. And I think the struggle with that is that our schools don't really, like, all the little stuff I've been hearing about the schools and hate what would you do if you were a slave, and how would you, like, the math questions that they've been showing happening in the school. It's just, they're reinforcing that hatred in terms of skin color in the school. So of course, when somebody feels like they're more superior than you, there is a sense of ignorance, because they've been taught that their whole entire life. It's been reinforced in everything that has to do with the society. And I'm not saying it's okay. I don't feel like I feel sorry for any of those people, but I do feel like everybody else has to put the mirror in those people's faces, and we're going to have to just be consistent about doing that. The conversations, these type of conversations, they can't end. I mean, people get comfortable again. They don't want to, they want to live in that ignorance is bliss because it just feels safe and comfortable. But the truth is that we still find ourselves in these same places over and over again. And then all that finger pointing that we're doing, when they say what, one for every finger that's pointing at somebody else, how many fingers are pointing back at us? I think the problem is us. What the teachers, how you get to put a math question in the class about asking people to tell you what they would do if one slave got 4 oranges and the other slave? What is the context of the slave using the term slavery in the story, other than to put that type of subliminal messages? We're talking about stealing kids' lights. Why are you doing this, teacher?
Or
what are you teaching?
Why are schools and parents allowing plays to get so far as 15 or 20 students in the 1st and 2nd grade on stage acting like they're picking cotton? How did it get so far to now we have an audience and the play is actually in action and we're watching it, and then now we want to have a discussion? No, the discussion should have been had when that form and that paper and that alert for the date was put up. You don't have to put children in action of oppression in order to teach them what that was. You're doing it because you want to show people you still have the allowance to go ahead and oppress.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And then call it something else. Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. Why aren't y'all at least just processing what you're doing? Like, why aren't you thinking about the feeling that you have when you're thinking about this idea? Because it's malicious. There's nothing good that's coming out of it. There's no real positive lesson that's coming out of something like that.
Where is the children's play for Jewish children in concentration camps?
Right there.
Where is the children's play for the Asian people that built the railroads in the U.S.? Where are those plays? Because if it was, you would see kids playing pilgrims in India fighting on stage because it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay. But it's always okay for us as brown people to be on display reenacting oppression.
Yeah. If it's not by a movie or a play, it's the music. I mean, it's always the same reinforcing, and that's the thing I think that bothers me the most. That whole Nick Cannon thing, it just showed me that even a black man, like, let's just say he wanted to say everything that he wanted to say, right? I'm not saying that all of it was right. I do feel like, it was worth talking about the fact that white supremacy within itself is something that every person that has a white skin to a certain degree can benefit from the privileges of that. If you are especially European looking, you're going to even benefit even far more than that. And the fact that we continue to be stuck in this situation where if a black person raises their voice to say, you know what, I'm calling a spade, there is savagery in this situation. I feel like the black people who, like, I listened to who was Whoopi Goldberg. She was like, oh no, it was what's her name, Megan McCain, I think it was. She was like, it's just disgusting that in this day and age, we would even be being xenophobic and this and that. And I'm not saying that that's okay, but what I am saying is that as a black person, I feel like we have far more. I feel like we should have far more grace and from other people when we're speaking up and saying, this is the way that I see these things that have occurred that have occurred in the society against my people, my experience as a black person in America. And every time somebody does that, it's like, then they try to turn it back around on us and be like, no, you're being hateful. I'm being hateful for telling the truth about what my experience has been. Do y'all know what the word hateful means? And that's another thing. It's so manipulated. The word hate is manipulated now. So when you do speak up, there's been so many people that have been online that I've responded back to. And I always ask this question, like, you're sitting here going out of your way to tell me about, let's say, George Floyd and how he wasn't killed by the police officer. You're going out of your way to see something, to tell me something other than what we all saw. Like, people, you think people are just crazy. They just got up out of nowhere, decided to protest just because there was a party going on in the streets in the heat. Come on now. Like, where's the common sense? And these folks, they don't seem to understand that they are a part of the problem, and putting somebody in a position, these people, these other celebrities like Whoopi Goldberg and all these people, stand up, tell the truth. He's right. There is savagery in white supremacy, and white supremacy hits all kinds of white people, and as well as other people of color who support it. But we don't have to keep pretending like that's not the case, because all that does is put us in the same situation. Why are all those Ethiopians out there protesting with BLM? They don't make any sense.
Right. Even down to this massage parlor massacre that happened here in Georgia a week ago or a few weeks ago. They are still trying to say he was just addicted to sex, and anyone affiliated with it that he had experience with, he basically went to kill them. Right? He targeted the women, and he went to 2 different parlors, and they said he was headed to Florida to fight and shoot against the porn industry. He was addicted to sex. But in the same token, they were trying to say, the police officers, that it's not a hate crime because there's not enough evidence that says so. But they went to the extent of going on his Facebook and taking down his racial T-shirts where he was making fun of Asians in a derogatory way, where it was racism against Asians on his Facebook. They took his Facebook down. So up, and you don't want to say it. It's never a okay thing to say that anyone of a white descent is a terrorist.
Yeah.
They have to be something else. They have to be having a bad day.
Yeah, bad day.
They're not there. Even the guy who I think he kidnapped a child. I think she was 8 years old. Abused her, hit her over the head with a shovel, and killed her. And because he pleaded insanity, he's just out free now, roaming, minding his business. Yeah. And it's like, this is why state laws make no sense. There should be a federal law, and that's it.
Yes. And it shouldn't be that hard for us to get a federal law. Either we believe that all lives matter or not. Like, I feel like it's time for us to start holding these words and these terms and the manipulation of these words and terms up against the people who keep using them. You want all lives to matter? Mean it. Go pass the bill where all lives actually matter. Go pass the bill where everybody who does this one crime gets the exact same time. Pass it. Go pass the bill where you reverse the bill where you tell people that they can't pass out water. The Bible Belt state? The Jesus state?
Oh my goodness, that's why. What is that? The only thing that's going to do is make people come out earlier, or more on purpose. So what's going to be the? You can't park in this parking lot before 7 o'clock.
Right. And this is what America's saying that they want. Y'all want to do this kind of fight, and then tell us to close our eyes and not believe that white supremacy is something that has been dividing all people of color, all poor white people against each other, and try to pretend and try to manufacture this false hate that we should be having against each other. Just with the whole media thing, like, it's the media's fault. And the media, there has to be a camera that captures these things. How do they happen? Where is this? Are you saying that a whole camera crew came out here and everybody in this is a movie now? Like, we're in WandaVision and there's like, this is what's happening. Some of the things I just be like, America, come on now. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Where is the government system that wants to really get down to the foreground, which is, let's focus on why this Constitution is incorrect.
Yeah.
Let's go point by point on what does not coincide with today's equality and today's justice for these reasons, because that's what the U.S. government business is built upon. That Constitution is racist still. That Constitution has points where people who like prejudice and hate like to, finesse things. And until someone comes in some office or some building and wants to go piece by piece through that Constitution to correct it and needs to be removed, we're going to be talking around in circles about that will never get any type of quote unquote justice, because there is so much hate speech within that Constitution that makes no sense. That Constitution provokes hate crimes. That Constitution makes words mean nothing and make small words mean a million things. And that's the difference between having a discussion and versus someone feeling attacked.
Yes, 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 and yes.
It's just a mess. I'm gonna play these messages though because they're getting kind of long.
Yes.
That is so true. If you look at the whole Asian hate situation, what was anybody saying when the Asian community was beating our black women in the hair stores, or accusing them of stealing when they weren't, or freaking in China when the coronavirus first started, the black people weren't even allowed in businesses and stuff because people were trying to say that black people started the coronavirus. So what was the outrage when all of that was happening? And now a couple of isolated incidents where Asian people just so happen to be killed, especially with the shooting. Now all of a sudden it's stop Asian hate. What the fuck? Like, what happened to stop black hate when the Asians was hating the black community?
I feel like that has always been a thing in the United States. Which brings me to microaggressions. I don't know if you've taught any of your kids about microaggressions, but basically microaggressions are things said in public that are hostile and derogatory that people basically dress up to mean not what they mean, but they do mean what they mean. And if you teach your child that microaggressions are okay, then you're basically teaching them things along the lines of, it's okay to say you're too cute to be gay, or, the 3-letter F word is okay to call somebody if they do something different than you. Or, there's no way that my child is sexually attracted to this. It's just a phase. Or purposely misgendering someone because you refuse to acknowledge how they want to be represented.
Yeah.
Even down to the fact that we still have to have articles about judges being sworn in who get to keep their natural hair. Like, that's a problem. That's a problem.
It is.
Fact PS just backed it's okay for their employees to have locks in their hair and have their hair natural to work. UPS. So that tells you that we do have a lot that we're still picking through and getting rid of. But, you do not want to teach your kids about hate because that creates poor relationships. Kids being depressed and they don't know that they're depressed. Confusion, self-hatred. It perpetuates kids to be super aggressive and have aggressive behavior and bully when all they really want is someone to see them and acknowledge them. A few years ago, there was a video. It comes on Instagram every now and again where this boy was bullying someone's son, and the dad basically talked to the boy and figured out that the boy was just upset because he didn't have what the other boy had. So he took him shopping. And he acknowledged that, that boy that was bullying his son felt a loss, and that's why he was being super aggressive towards his son. And he talked to him, and he got to get insight on, he just felt without, and he was jealous. He was bullying kids at school and bullying his son. So sometimes it's just like a reflection thing where kids just act out. And I think the kids that don't get seen for their bullying as children, they turn into business owners and bosses and executives who just walk around like, they smell great every day.
Yes.
24 hours, 7, okay? And you can't tell them nothing.
Yeah.
And that will trickle down because the pressure that they're going to put on their district manager is the pressure that they're going to put on the store managers or the office managers, and that's the pressure they're going to put on their sales leader. And then you're just creating a work environment that nobody wants to be in because one person doesn't know that they're just being impossible. And they don't know that they're being impossible because no one corrected them. And so when you don't correct kids when they're young, they just turn into adults that just need way more correction, and people don't have time to. So we just have to be mindful of what we teach our kids and what we're not teaching our kids to unlearn. And there are still jobs that expect Black people to be less competent automatically because and we have to acknowledge that that is also a thing. We all need a level of understanding of other cultures so we can work better and we can work together.
Yes.
We can learn a lot from our kids.
Yes.
If we just humble ourselves and put down our pride and our ego. And I feel like there's a lot of resentment that comes with being hateful because people don't understand each other.
Yeah. And just that sense of humility too. If people haven't learned how to humble themselves and be able to listen and learn from other people, and I think that that's a part of the hatred too, is that people just want to remain ignorant. They don't want to look outside themselves. They don't want to challenge the fact that they were possibly raised a certain way. And I say raised a certain way, meaning maybe there was some neglect there, right? What you were talking about earlier. Maybe there was some jealousy there. Maybe there was mimicking behaviors of a parent that they saw, right? Or trying to go out of their way to please a parent because that parent gave them a hard time about everything that they look like. You don't look good enough for this. You don't look good enough for that. Like all of these things. And then you add, of course, the structural part of it and the ideological part of it of white supremacy, which also does a lot in terms of interrupting people's ability to know exactly what their strengths are, right? Without questioning it all the time, right? I think a lot of people suffer. Everybody suffers in this system when we continue to keep questioning if we should trust who we really are, if we should trust the things that we want to do, if we should trust being ourselves all the time. And I think that a large part of some of that hatred is also self-hate, right? We have to be careful watching our children and making sure that our children are not exhibiting behaviors where they don't like themselves for whatever reason, right? It could have been an encounter at school from that bully who didn't have any humility, who made our child or whoever it is feel a certain kind of way. And then now that child is carrying that insecurity with them to the point where it turns into self-hate and turns destructive. And then it becomes something that it could either be violence outward or violence towards themselves. So, I mean, I feel like if we're really serious about being a village in this country, then we do have to look at the small things. We do have to recognize, how much character plays a role in the type of children that we hope that, or we claim that we want to see become the adults that are better than the way that we've been. And it's I think the shows, the formats of some of these shows need to change where character is more of a focus. I feel like the storytelling has to be centered around, and it does, you see the behaviors of different characters, and you can tell, certain, how certain chain reactions have happened in a family and how they solve the problem, but it doesn't get in any in depth in that. And I think the literal part of it, I think we stay away from the literal. We do like to have like a lot of symbolisms, and we use the figuratively speaking type of thing or things like that, rather than saying like, this is plainly what this is. This person is dealing with someone who neglected them. They're telling you that they were neglected, and they're telling you why they hate themselves. They're telling you why they hate other people. How do we get those people back to the place of being a human being again? And I don't know if it's going to be a situation where schools solve that problem, or if it's how many us as parents do it, but it's definitely a discussion that needs to be brought in, and it has to be a lot more honest than I think some of these, E2020, all these little news stations, they're not really getting to the people. They're not really talking to the people. And I think the more we learn about the people, we learn about ourselves, and hopefully can turn this stuff around, because it don't make any sense. Shootings, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And I know you're not, and I know I'm not, but just to make sure that you're not raising your children to being peer pressured to hate because other kids are hating, or when a child is in trouble, pull out your phones and record it and not help the child or diffuse the situation in a smart way. Now, we know, like, if there's weapons involved, you're not telling your child to go in the middle and separate them. But at the same time, like, if you see that there's no weapons and it's just a child purposely picking on someone else, don't encourage it. Don't laugh. Don't, take it as, oh, let me get this on video because I could get a lot of likes, because that's the thing now. And I would be so disappointed if one of my children were one of those kids with cell phones recording instead of helping.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
But those are the kids that are out here right now. And any child just not knowing or not understanding, instead of them ask for an explanation or know how to, go up to someone and ask them politely, hey, what is this? Or what are you eating? Or not while they're eating. I'm always teaching my kids, like, don't talk to people about what they're eating while they're eating. Wait till the next day, or ask them afterwards, hey, I saw you tearing up such and such at lunch. What were you eating? Just to be knowledgeable about something. Like,
right.
I've never had fufu, but I see people tearing it up.
Yeah.
And you could go on YouTube now and figure out what things are. You don't physically have to ask a human being what things are. And it's all about just not being ignorant and crutching on your ignorance to make it feel like, oh, it's something okay to do. Like, you don't have to call somebody out their name to get their attention. You don't have to pick on someone uh to give them like some idea that you see them or you like them. Just be like, I like you. I know I don't know, but I like you. Just be honest. And it is this form of honesty that I'm trying to push for my kids to have, because I'm super honest. And when you're super honest, nobody can't say anything about you or what you didn't do or what you didn't say or what you did say, because everybody gets to know you on the same level. You're consistent. And it's about being consistent and minding your manners. And as a parent today, you know why your father was so strict, right? You know why they were so big on like manners and please and thank you and speaking appropriately. Because when you look at kids act a fool, what do you think about their parents? Because they're a child, they're still in a position of guidance or needing guidance. And it's other people around that child that you're just like, I don't know where they got that from, but I know that's not childlike. You know what I'm saying? So it's someone.
Yeah.
And it's about being aware of all these things out here that constantly on a daily teach your kids how to hate. Even the games. There's this game that my girls constantly like downloading on their iPads, and it's basically something buddy, where you just basically hit the screen and beat up this cartoon character.
Mm,
Just like
mm,
why
yeah.
is this game? It's funny. You just beat him up, and the more you hit him, the more you see him bruised up. And it's those type of little things that seem playful that perpetuate it's okay to pick on somebody. It's okay to do something because you're gonna get something out of it. And so it's all about being mindful of what you watch. Um, it was cool to watch Gargoyles with my brother when I was little because it was gargoyles. Those are not real.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't think my mom would have been okay with us watching a cartoon about little kids being beat up and you getting some type of reward for that. And I think that's where we live right now, where that is seen as okay. Oh, you beat somebody up at school again? Give me high five, give me some dap. Like that's nothing to dap up about.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I feel like there's a culture of cool, like uh the more of a rebel, the more destructive you are, the cooler you are.
Yeah.
And it's like that's been every time you see a show, it's like it's a bully on TV. He's probably going through something. I mean, I think they probably started writing that a lot more recently, like in the '90s, maybe the later to early 2000 shows and stuff like that. But previous to that, it was just the bully, and the focus was on the kid that was getting bullied. He was going to be the hero one day, and it's just being reinforced to us like this is what society is supposed to be. And I remember a lot of older parents, like Generation Xers, they'll be like, y'all need to, and I do it sometimes too. Like the fact that my kids don't have enough scars, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like when I say scars, I mean like they ran outside, they scraped that good knee, they got a couple of, now when they get a little scratch, it's like, mommy, I need a Band-Aid. You need a Band-Aid for that little scratch. Go sit down somewhere. Like, like really get a real battle wound. Like go out there, ride the bike, tumble over a couple times because you tried something. But that's just my gripe. But the Xers, they'll be like, these kids, they don't know what it's like. Y'all babying these kids and they're going to be out here in the world. They're not going to know how to fend for themselves. It's like, but we shouldn't have to teach kids that in order for them to fend for themselves, it has to come with some kind of violence. Why can't we teach kids to know how to have discussions, conversations, ask questions, get to the bottom of something and really understand what a problem is so that it doesn't have to be solved by violence? And, we've just been reconditioned into that for so long that anything outside of that is you're being boring or you're not fun and all this other stuff. And it's like, but then we all upset when the stuff happened all over again. I think it's just that balance of life just happening and then people really wanting to fix the problems. And then of course you got the other people who are just like, well, just let things be and stop making things more than what they are. And it's like, but you can't make something more than what it is if you're just talking about what it is. You're just talking about what it is. So there's a lot to work with. There's a lot to work on. I think that, I think our generation though, I feel like I've talked to a lot of people that's in our, early 30s, mid 30s that are talking about this type of parenting and having these deep conversations where we think about character and behavior and how not to be a part of it. So that gives me hope. It does. It just, on the other side of it, what doesn't give me as much hope is sort of the pacifying, like, we want standards, but it's like, well, I mean, don't, let the kids be kids. It's like the kids ain't being kids if they acting like adults.
Exactly. And you know what? I'm with you on normalizing your children being able to have discussions about what they don't understand and not picking on people because they don't understand something. And a lot of that would help people in the work environment because if I'm having a discussion with you as your manager or your sales or as your boss and you are bawling crying because I'm having a discussion on correction to make you better.
Oh my God.
That tells me that your parents never had discussions with you on being a better person.
Yeah.
And that is your parents' fault.
Yeah.
But you are at an age now because you're in the workspace to understand that it is okay for you to have a review and have expectations for
Yeah.
the next months. There's nothing to cry at. I'm not saying I hate you. I'm not
Right.
saying you're fired. I'm saying there's room for improvement. And a lot of people don't know how to have those discussions. So just because someone is having a discussion on your behavior or a lack of, doesn't mean they don't like you. It just means they
Oh
notice
my
us
gosh.
improve.
Yes. But I think who have it the hardest are people who are like older, like in their like mid 40s or late 40s, in their 50s. If they have it like they make it, you would think. I've worked with so many older people that I'm just like, why am I talking to you like you're my child? I can't deal with this. I'm supposed to be looking up to you. You're supposed to be giving me some wisdom, telling me something. We
Yeah.
shouldn't even be having any of these discussions. And then I was one lady I used to work with. She used to just be every time it was like the social workers this and this is they coming by and they always coming to get the kids, and this woman's trying to take the kids, my granddaughter, away from me, all this other stuff. And then I see your behaviors and I'm thinking to myself, well, this is why your children behaved what they behave. You have no sense of ownership or accountability or responsibility or anything. Of course your kids are mimicking the exact same thing that you're doing, and you're mad.
Yeah.
Fix that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Please fix that. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been listening, who left a comment, anybody that wants to leave any closing comments on anything they would like to provide. This episode will be used on Cozy One Podcast. So if you left a message and it wasn't along the topic, I purposely didn't play it because I didn't want it to get off topic. It's not because I didn't want to play it, but I just really want to focus on this kids thing, what we teach them, and this hate thing, because it blocks out so many great things that can be in a space because something about hate was not worked on.
Yeah.
So I just wish all parents can humble themselves to know that they have room for growth still.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I wish that, what I teach my child would be the only thing that they learn, but that's not reality. And the reality is there are parents to children who are amazing children who might be same sex parents, who might be transgender, who might come from somewhere completely different. It doesn't make that child less than. And because that child is exposed to a different type of lifestyle than the lifestyle that I live, it's not
Yes.
rub off on my child. It's not a plague. And just get out of the mindset of feeling like, I don't believe in that. I don't celebrate that. I don't recognize that. But that gives me the okay to disrespect that. It doesn't give you the okay to disrespect it. I think we can all respect people as individuals, families as being those families. But I'm not going to raise my child to not see people who are different. I'm just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of button up on that too, to that point, is that we just have to decide, like, when we're saying that we want better, and this is something that helps me too. Even in this whole conversation, I'm like, I could be a better parent here and a better parent there. I guess I could kind of, I never think I thought about this way. Maybe I can adjust this or adjust that. I walked away like humbling myself in this situation because, we don't talk in depth about certain things just for me to bring it up. Like the kids will see something, or maybe we'll see something together and we'll talk about it. But it is important for me to continue to keep that dialogue open so that my kids don't ever feel like no one listened to them. Right. So now they go into the world and be, these destructive people trying to creating like codependencies on other people because they need that validation. And it's a reminder for me that I have to constantly keep remembering that in this time when they're getting older, that the balance is that I do have to create dialogue in this as they're older, right? Just like consistently, I do have to ask them about topics and things like that versus when they were younger, if they saw something, we talk about it. So that really is my takeaway in terms of like trying to make sure that I fill that gap that I think that I probably could have filled better as a parent, which is just not being afraid to introduce conversation. And not necessarily that I've ever been afraid to. I just kind of like, we ride the wave, it comes up, we're looking at it, let's talk about it. But why not challenge them even more to think about different things? They're very their grasp of things is like very mature. So that's something too as a parent, like recognizing our children's maturity level, and knowing and how to apply that balance of truth versus letting them just be those kids, and hopefully we always hope that in the end the outcome is that our kids do listen to the things we tell them, and that they do replicate the behaviors that we want to see in the world, which is people that are accountable, that are honest, that are authentic, and that are humble, to your point too. So this was a fantastic one. I really enjoyed chit-chatting about this because I think people need to talk about it.
I enjoy talking to you. I'm going to play these last 2 messages and then we go close up the show.
Yes, ma'am.
Kids, if the parents discipline their kids like they should, the kids wouldn't be how they are today.
I agree. But you might have a parent like mine that didn't believe in discipline.
Yeah. And then it's the discipline too. Which one do you use? The rod or the reasoning?
Yeah.
It's a hard one. They both hard.
Yeah.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
How are you guys doing? What you ladies doing? My bad. Much love to you. Much love to your co-host, Stonecutter. Do a live with me sometime later. Much love.
Thank you. Probably won't.
Yeah. But, well, it's been great, girl.
Yes. I hope you have a good week. And
yes.
Week, you and Kev take it easy.
Yes.
I am ready for tomorrow and not ready for tomorrow at the same time.
Yeah, I hope you have a great week as well. And you know what? One thing I'm learning myself in my weeks I'm getting better at is looking at the thing right in front of me. And that's been looking at the thing in front of me and not looking at the things that I want it to be. Because every week I'm like, oh, if I could talk to one more human dog person. But yes, it's been great. So deuces.
Bye.
Bye.